Hey, what's up guys, Lortzivic here, and today we're going to be talking about RuiPro's new 8K detachable pure fiber HDMI cable, which is capable of transmitting HDMI 2.1 speeds in a detachable cable format. So a couple things before we begin. First and foremost, thank you so much to RuiPro for sending me out this cable. I was not told that I had to say anything specific. They just said, hey Lortzivic, we think you'd like this cable. We'd like you to talk about it on your channel. Like it, I didn't. Love it, I did. This is the coolest proprietary display transmitting technology that I've ever seen, and this in a specific form factor is freaking awesome. This is the second time I'm reviewing a RuiPro product, and I am super excited to say that it is amazing as well. Last but not least, all of the gameplay that you're seeing in today's video was recorded with the RuiPro cable, HDMI detachable cable utilized, and it was with my 5090 4K 120 Hz or 4K 120 Hz plus, because I was playing with cap frame rate with G-Sync without screen tear and different stuff like that. So yes, this cable is capable of transmitting those speeds, and every time I do these reviews on these cables, I'm just like, hey, it's a cable, it's simple, it just has to do what it specifically advertises that it can do, and it gets a check mark on me. Now, RuiPro took that logic and, doubled down on it and made the coolest proprietary cable display technology I've ever seen. So, first and foremost, this is a detachable cable in the sense that the HDMI cable heads do not come on the cable by default. I was sent a 3-meter variant, which I believe is about 10 feet. And then I was also sent a 10-meter one, which is 33 feet. Now, this is super freaking cool, and let me just say why. First and foremost, I'm a home theater enthusiast. I'm a home theater enthusiast like a lot of my viewers that watch my channel, in the sense that I am somebody that is, always variably moving my setup and different stuff on the fly. My display goes here, my PC goes there, and different stuff like that. And every time I have to do those specific setups, I have to, remove the cables and, set them up in a new route around the room and different stuff like that. That in itself is a headache. What is the really biggest headache is when you have the HDMI cable heads on the computer or on the display itself, and you have to put it through sofas, through walls, under carpets, other furniture and different stuff like that. It's a big headache because all the time the HDMI cable head gets stuck on, a part of the sofa, in between the wall and another cable, on a wood block, blah, 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 and different stuff like that. RuiPro was like, screw that. We are going to make an HDMI cable that is just the cable itself with these little head things that, can't get stuck on anything, and then these dust covers, which is amazing for putting it through the walls because you don't want to get actual dust in the cables itself. And they just made this very tricky process very straightforward. So I have been using this extensively with my 5090 and my Sony A995, my 5090 PC and my Sony A995L. I've been playing a load of Expedition 33. With the setup, 4K 120 Hz is amazing with DLAA, all the works and all the different stuff like that. I've also tested Destiny, Red Dead Redemption, Sekiro, all these games, and it just runs flawlessly. No dropout of connections, no issues and different stuff like that. And this proprietary tech in this form factor has been so freaking cool. So, okay, Lortzivic, we hear all that. Okay, the cable's kind of expensive. How do you set it up, and, how has been your experience with it? So first and foremost, when it comes to the setup with it, the dust covers, as I said, are over the cables. So what my advice to do is, whether you're putting it in a wall or under sofas or under carpets and different stuff like that, is to keep the dust covers on the head of the cables. So what you're going to do is you're going to unravel the cable, of course, and then you're going to put one end where it's supposed to be plugged into there, and then the other end where it's supposed to be plugged into the source, and then the display, and then the source. So the cables, just like RuiPro's other tech, have listings of source on one and then display on the other. Now the reason that I say this is because the source end, it's just you plug it up to the ends with the cable itself, and you want to make sure it goes the right direction. You hear the snap, it's in, you're perfectly fine. Now, the display side is a little bit more confusing, but not really much so. You unplug the dust cover on the HDMI end, and then you unplug the cover on the cable end itself. You plug it in. Now, this part is really important because the source side of the cable provides its own power. Now, the display side requires a micro USB to be plugged in. So after you plug in the micro USB on the cable itself, which right there, it's in, then you have to plug it into the actual source device itself. Now, I have my Really Pro plugged into the HDMI port on my 5090 behind the camera there, and then I have it plugged into my Arcam AVR31. Now, my Arcam AVR31, and you have to be perfectly aware of this before buying a specific thing, has one USB port on it. That means that I can only plug one of these proprietary cables up to my Arcam AVR31. Now, with HDMI CEC, I can plug up my HDMI, two more Really Pros to my HDMI ports on my A95L because it has two more USB ports. Now, with that said, this is an important fact that you have to know because even though this cable's fancy, I'm talking about all this stuff and different stuff like that, you don't want to buy too many of the cables and, replace it for every single setup in your thing that you have, and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to use all Really Pro, which you can, and I'm curious if a USB port splitter would work on a TV and an AVR. I haven't tested it personally. Honestly, you can put up to the test. But I really like that there's tech like this, and it allows, like your mind to spiral and be like, okay, can I do this? Can I do that? Now, one issue that I have run into, which is probably not going to bother a lot of people, is the way I have my specific computer set up is that I have it where when an HDMI cable is plugged into the PC, it automatically displays just the stuff on my TV, and it turns off my other monitors and different stuff, and I'm just in, kind of hot swapping in them and stuff like that. Now, I'm trying to see the best way. I hope I'm explaining this correctly, and if I'm not, then I can clarify in the comments, just ask questions and different stuff like that. But for reference, the connection with the TV, the TV has to be on for an HDMI signal to be sent, and not hot swapping. That's not what I meant. I have the HDMI cable plugged up, and when I turn on the TV, my two monitors on my desk automatically turn off. Now, with saying that, the TV does not have to be on for the HDMI cable to get a signal. You're just like, what do you need? Since power is always being, vampire power is always being, drawn or whatever from the micro USB, the TV the computer gets a signal as if the TV is on. So with this, I've had to kind of go in the NVIDIA control panel and switch it out and do different stuff consisting of different stuff. What I've consisted of is just kind of hot swapping, unplugging the HDMI cable when I'm not using it. And you might be saying, okay, that's kind of a headache, but this is a specific case for me. A lot of people are going to be using just strictly TV, or, they're not going to really need to be hot swapping because they're always going to have their TV on. And it's just, I don't want, with my triple monitor setup, all connections to be live at the same time. So that's just something you have to be aware of. It's not really the highest priority thing, and this is a thing that's going to affect 1% of users. I'm a specific case with it, especially, not everybody's going to have 3 super high-end displays, but that's just something you have to be aware of. But regardless of that, this is the coolest display transmitted technology that I've ever seen. I'm super excited that Really Pro did this. Also on their website, last but not least, it says that the cable in the future is going to be capable of transmitting, right here, let me read it out. This is especially important if the cable is installed in wall. It's also easier to upgrade with replaceable heads, future-proofed for HDMI 2.2. So in the future, when HDMI 2.2 is supported, I don't know if it's going to be 1 or 2 generations. If anything, I would think 2 generations. You will not have to get an entirely new cable. You will not have to reroute it through your wall. Really Pro is saying that they will come out with HDMI 2.2 headers. All you have to do is take the header off of one side of the cable and then the other side of the cable, and you just replace the ends, and then you'll be able to play at 4K, 480 hertz or 8K 240 hertz whenever that's supported. Regardless, thank you again so much for RuiPro for sending this cable. This is the coolest thing ever when it's come to display transfer cable technology. And I'm really excited to just like see, you know, how they can even innovate even further on the technology. One thing that I like to say is I would love, and I saw this all in the Amazon reviews when I was looking at other people's reviews and stuff like that, I would love for us to get a DisplayPort format of this cable. This is super cool content, and I know PC users, especially like myself, would love this in the form factor, especially having, you know, same logic, you know, having to put stuff through walls or rerouting our desk or moving our display from this end to this end, having to not have to, you know, reroute it and do all the different stuff like that and just replace the heads and do the different stuff. It's just so freaking cool. So this gives my stamp of approval. I'd highly recommend it. As I said, I got the 10-foot variant, and then I also got the 33-inch variant. It also comes in a 990-foot variant, which I would have to test myself, but you know, RuiPro hasn't doubted me, hasn't let me down yet. So I would think the tech would work, but like 990 feet, I don't even know who would need that, but it's just even cool that it exists. So regardless, thank you again, RuiPro. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hope you guys have a great day.